Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
For artists that want to follow a realistic style, I don't know that you necessarily have to overthink about an influence like me or any other painter who does realism. You can certainly get a lot from the pieces that we've done, maybe even imitate some of those compositions, but I think you'll find your own way once you're just studying reality, which is what I would do. I mean, if I'm going to look at people, things, photographs, it's beneficial to start shooting your own if you can get into that. And these days, since everybody's got a camera, that's not so much of an issue anymore. Being able to study life as the basis for something is the best. I had the longest problem of thinking I needed to have everybody and every element be perfect before I could use it as a reference source. And so it took me a long time to realize how flexible the basis of the human form is. I've posed her myself on loads of paintings where now I guess I'm called out by some people online. It's a process of getting your mind comfortable with what you're building off of. And at a certain point, I would say accept that you're going to feel like you're not seeing it until you've seen it. You know, that maybe you do need to have a thing look like a thing exactly before you're painting from it.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for Word Balloon Live, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Really happy to welcome Aaron Douglas to Word Balloon. Aaron, it's a pleasure, man. Thanks a lot for doing this tonight.
I am absolutely filled with delight. And if I may interrupt for a second, I just want to comment on your opening and how fracking awesome it is. And how much I hate people like Alex because they're so goddamn fracking talented. And you just like the Wonder Woman, the eyes, the Life of Brian piece through there. And then just, it's like, how do people sit down and just do that? I can't wrap my brain around it. But anyways, terrific opening. I'm thrilled to be on with you, John. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, man. And congratulations on your first comic book, 10 Years to Death from Aftershock, one of the sponsors of Word Balloon. And again, I'm really glad we're doing this. Hey, listen, I know Alex Ross is great, but you've got no slouch yourself working on this. Cliff Richards, fantastic artist. So, yeah, that's amazing. So tell me, I know Joe Pruitt, the editor-in-chief at Aftershock, has been planning these novellas, if you will, which I think are great. And you got about 40 pages of story in 10 Years to Death. But yeah, how did he approach you? How did this happen?
So I met Joe. Man, I think we're going like 6 or 7 years ago or something. We were at a convention and just happened to be standing around at the lobby bar, as you do at conventions, you know. And you walk up to people that you recognize from this, that, or the other, and you say, "Hi, I'm so and so. I'm a big fan." And Joe came up to me and said, "Hi, I loved you in Battlestar." And then we just started talking, and we started talking about. He said, you know, I write comics and I do this, and I had this. I was absolutely engrossed in this this urban myth thing. Some people will slap me for calling it a myth, but the Black Eyed Kids. I thought these black-eyed kids was just this fascinating thing. And I went down this rabbit hole in YouTube, just looking and the web, just trying to find out what these black-eyed kids were all about. And Joe, so we started talking, and he said, you know, what are you interested in right now? And I said, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, different shows, but I'm really interested in this black-eyed kids thing. And then he, out of nowhere, he just goes, oh, I've already got a comic book about it. So screw you, your idea's already done. And I was horrified, like, oh, come on, I thought I had something. But we got to talking, and then the night turned into ghost stories. And I've got a lot of ghost stories from my childhood and just sort of traveling around the world. And I love to talk to people about their paranormal, supernatural sort of ghost story things. And he said, oh, that's really interesting. So tell me some. So I just started rattling off these ghost stories. And then we sort of got like this gathered around. There was a cabal of people that sort of hung around listening to these. Everybody was telling ghost stories. And, you know, like a couple of weeks later, he sent me an email. I said, you ever thought about writing one of these things as like a story? And I said, yeah, I could. But he said, what about like as a comic book or a graphic novel? And I said, okay, but I don't know what that looks like. But he said, okay, well, let's talk about it. So, and we just got into it. And so I wrote a short for the Aftershock Shocks, and then the Aftershock 2. So yeah, he was introducing me to the comic world people by putting me in these anthology books with the, you know, Neil Gaiman and just these monsters standing on the shoulders of giants, as it were. And then this one came, and he said, I really like, I've got like 4 stories that he really likes. And he said, let's do this one first, and let's make it your own full length feature graphic novel, 40-pager, blah, blah, blah. I'm still not up on the lingo of the things, but yeah, so I wrote it, and he helped me sort of fix it a little bit, and I'm thrilled. Cliff is ridiculous because he writes what I see, or he draws what I see. So when he sends pages back, I'm looking at what's playing in my head. It's so weird. I have to make like, for 40 pages, I go, can that be in his left hand? And the stairs have a railing. That's all I do with this guy. It's like he's in my head, and he's in Brazil, and it's creepy. It's absolutely fracking creepy. Anyways, Cliff, love you, buddy. Yeah, so that's how we got to where we are now.
That's excellent. I didn't realize you had done a couple shorter pieces for Shock. Joe is like, and he did this at a couple other publishers as well. His company Desperado. He is like the master of anthologies and gathering great talent, both writer and artist and everything. You mentioned Neil Gaiman, but a lot of the comic book vets and everything kind of cut their teeth with Joe, and they don't forget. And I think that's terrific. And I'm really glad he's at Aftershock. And this is kind of an evolution of the anthologies rather than just doing short stories collected and stuff. And especially during COVID, he really reached out to a lot of people and are like, hey, if you're sitting around and especially artists that kind of needed the work and stuff, you know, it's like, hey, you know, you want to do 40 pages for us? We got room. And I'm so glad this stuff is now coming out. So let's talk about 10 Years to Death. As you say, a ghost story. And I've got a couple pages of Cliff's art. I don't want to give too much away, but from a framing standpoint, we've got a guy telling a story to a kid, telling kind of a living ghost story that he was experiencing, and he's a prison guard. I'll let you take it from there in terms of his story and then what we can expect from the story.
So when I was a boy, I live in Vancouver, and my dad was from Ontario, just outside of Toronto, and he had 3 brothers and 3 sisters. The sisters all stayed back east, but one by one, the brothers came out in their like late teens, 20s. They would come out and they would live with us for a little bit and to establish themselves, and then they would go bombing off. Hey, there's Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie. And they would go bombing off to get their own jobs and get their own life going. We had this one brother, and they were raised very, very strict Catholic. My grandmother was very Catholic.
Okay.
Yeah, I said to my grandmother one time, you have 7 kids. Like, what is that? And she said, well, your grandfather blamed the Catholic Church. I blamed Carling Black Label. So that One of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life is this from this 97-year-old woman who's just cackling away. Anyway, so so this one uncle, my Uncle John, came out, and he still is a devout Catholic, but he had all these weird supernatural paranormal things happen to him. One of the shorts in the Aftershock Shock Volume 2, I believe it is called Drums. Okay. And when we were kids, my brother and I were very young, my uncle lived with us, and he lived upstairs, and across the hall from his room was an empty room. My dad kept his drums kit, and in the middle of the night, the drums would play. And my mom would blame my uncle for waking up the kids. And my uncle would swear, stack of Bibles, I don't play the drums. And if you go find this book, you'll see what happens. But it was weird. And I vividly remember the night that the drums stopped playing because something happened, and it is creepy.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, so Uncle John worked at a prison, local prison. And he would usually, he'd come home and he'd tell my dad like the stories of the day. This guard got punched, and this prisoner did this, and this did that. So I'm the child in the story. In real life, I was upstairs asleep, and my uncle came home one night very late. He got a phone call in the middle of the night, and he left, and he came back, and he was absolutely rattled, like just out of his mind, freaked out. And my dad sat him down and said, "What's going on?" And he said, I can't tell you. And I had gotten up, and I sat at the top of the stairs, and I listened to my uncle and my dad talking. And my dad finally got him to tell the story. And I wish I had never gotten up. I wish I had just stayed in bed, because the story is just fracking weird and really creepy and really scary. And so my uncle swore to my dad to secrecy. You cannot tell anybody, because this is not being made public. We cannot. And now I've written a book about it. So yeah, sorry, Uncle John. But yeah, it's a true story. The book is a little bit different than what actually happened, but it basically is what happened. But it is just, it's like, what? And it never got out. This is late 70s, early 80s. So there's no social media, there's nothing. And they just swore everybody to secrecy, because there was just this really small group of people that were aware of this thing that happened. And they just buried it. And the only person that knows that shouldn't have known is me and this 8-year-old kid. And so all these years later, I've told the tale, and it is, I'm excited to tell the tale, because I think it's cool. And every time I tell the story to people, especially at cons, like if you're at a con and you're sitting around, the actors always sit. My favorite part about a convention is the Fridays and the Saturday nights, where you're just sitting around with the other actors, and you just tell stories from set. Who's a jerk, who's nice, who's an asshole, who's this, who's that. And you tell stories about traveling, and you tell stories about directors. And then if you get into ghost stories, that's my favorite thing. You start telling ghost stories. And so yeah, I tell this story, and people just go, "Oh no. Oh no." So yeah, so I put it into a book, and I hope people like it.
That's excellent, man. It comes out next Wednesday from Aftershock. It'll be available in the direct market at the stores, and I imagine as well digitally through Amazon, Comixology, and the like. So that's cool. Is this something you would like to do more of? I mean, you get your feet wet with the shorty, and now you've done, 40 pages. Are there longer stories that you'd like to pursue in comic book form?
Absolutely. I've got more of like the one-off 40-pager kind of stories.
Sure.
But then I've also got the big ones that feel like it's kind of like it's a 3-part movie. So however you break that up into comic books, not necessarily. Some are a little kind of creepy ghost stories, and then some of them are more. I don't really do superhero stuff. I leave that to the professionals, because they're more clever than me. But I like the sort of the world of dystopia. Everything's gone to hell. So what the hell are we going to do now? And then a little bit of silliness, just sort of pop in, add here and there. Yeah, I've got a lot of ideas. I just need somebody to go, okay, here, go ahead. So Joe, say go ahead.
Well, it's great that you're doing the conventions, and certainly And I don't want to take business away from Joe, but there's a lot of great, I think, places to go. And also, by the way, truly, I think one of the great things about this current era of comics is that the medium has gone beyond superheroes and rediscovered horror stories, crime stories, science fiction, dystopia, whatever you want to do, space opera. There's a place. Romance comics are back, for God's sakes. Yeah. And it's great. I mean, and I really think that's terrific. And I think a lot of us that grew up on just superheroes are ready now for something else, or had forgotten about, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and, there were still great horror anthologies and even the occasional crime comics. So it's great to see all these genres come back with a force. And again, great art, great storytelling. Why not? It's a great medium. And obviously Hollywood has discovered that with all the great adaptations we've been seeing with TV and film. So yeah, why not?
Absolutely. Totally agree. And that's the great thing about doing it now is because you get an idea and you take it to a studio or network and they say, is there an IP? Do they have, you get like, okay, well, here's my comic book. I've written a comic book, and, 50,000 people have bought it. So it's got a base. So they make a base, right? But yeah, I completely agree. Because back in the day, it was like sock, pow, bam, and every page was filled with these colors and wham, wham, wham. Whereas now you can kind of do that slow burn Shawshank Redemption sort of. You don't need a lot. Like, my book doesn't have a lot of dialogue and doesn't have a lot of narration, and I purposely do that to just pull it out to let people linger on the amazing art by Cliff. You just pause on the art and look and let the story sort of go. Because the problem with me is I read fast. I just burn.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to convey it with just like, as little. I hate spoon feeding the audience. You watch those shows that just spoon feed, like CSI is impossible to watch because you just spoon feed the audience. You got two people who have been, they all went through the training and they all went to school, and now they've been working together for 10 years. And it's like, well, I'm going to use this luminol, which sprays on this thing, and then I do this and I do this. They explain how luminol works. Your coworker, if you did that in real life, they'd go, shut your mouth. I know what luminol is. Go away. Just spray the bloody thing and just tell me what you find. I hate that spoon feeding nonsense.
That is hilarious, man. Actually, got to know William Peterson really right at leading up to CSI, my sports radio background in Chicago, and Bill's a Chicago guy and stuff. And yeah, he was so excited about the initial concept of CSI, and he kept reassuring us. He's like, "It's not Quincy. I promise. It's not. I'm not going to be Jack Klugman." And yeah, we were exactly, man. We're all laughing, not knowing what to expect, and it was so great. And I'm so thrilled and happy for him that he's coming back to the show, because he took a few years off and relaxed and took a nice victory lap and everything. But I'm really excited for him and hope to get him on Word Balloon in the months ahead, because great.
Please. He's a terrific actor, that fella. Oh, outstanding. He's tremendous
guy. Tremendous actor. Absolutely.
Oh, that's wonderful to know. Yeah.
So Stephanie wants to know what was the collaboration like with you and Cliff in terms of getting the story going. Did you guys talk? Did you talk through your editor? I mean, and again, I don't even know. I haven't had Cliff on to know what level of English he has. But tell me.
Well, his emails are pretty good in English. I don't know if he runs it through a translator or whatever. No, I'm sure that Cliff speaks better English than me, and certainly better Spanish. The thing with him is it's weird because I write scripts and I write like in novel form. I can just write that, but comic books, it's a different deal. You need to describe what's happening and then put the dialogue in. So panel and then description, what's in the panel. And I have to, like, the first time I did it, Joe sent it back and said, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like, you need to describe the room. And I thought, oh, okay, I get it. So the room is this big and we're facing here and we're standing. So it's like POV.
Yes.
Like in a script. So you're standing in this corner of the room and there's a chair, like there's a chair and there's a bed and a headboard and there's a lamp, and you got to describe what's happening. Yeah. So the artist can then go, okay, there's this and this, because they're not reading your mind. But in a way, Cliff does, because I describe all of these things and I sort of give him like the idea of the era particularly the colors and everything. And then he just draws it. And then they come back. He sends them as he'll send like 5 pages at a time and say, okay, so here for confirmation, acceptance, whatever. And I look at them and I just think, holy crap, like you're in my head. Get out of my head, you freaky man. And then I send it to Joe, and Joe goes, yeah, okay, we're happy. And then we send them back, and then it goes to the colorist, and the colorist sends the palettes of, okay, these are the colors we're thinking of because of the era, and away we go. It's a bizarre thing, and Cliff he's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. I can't wait to do another thing. I have a thing that Aftershock was kind of like, meh, we're not really sure. But I sent it to Cliff and I said, can we do this just together, you and me? And he said, yep, yes, we can. So
wonderful.
Yeah. So it's a movie I wrote like 7 years ago. And I think it's really cool. And everybody I've sent it to thinks it's really cool. So, and I sold it and it didn't get made. Because the people that were making it had some really weird ideas on casting. So I dragged my feet, and then it reverted back to me after 18 months. So I still have my little thing, and Cliff loves it. And so I think that I'm going to cobble together some money, and Cliff and I are just going to make this on our own, and we'll send it out to the world, or I don't know how you kickstart. I don't know any stuff. So yeah,
that was going to be my question, man. A lot of creators, especially during COVID, went on their own, kickstarted a bunch of stuff, or went to a platform where they could sell it directly to the audience. Why not? I think that's excellent. And again, no disrespect to Aftershock, but yeah, there are other publishers. So what genre is this story?
So this story is called Infrared. And it's about those game cameras that are on game trails when hunters go hunting and they put the cameras out.
Sure.
And when an animal walks by it and it trips the sensor and it takes a picture. So it's a story of 8 guys who have been best friends since high school. And every year they take 2 weeks and they go off into the wilderness and they go on a hunting trip. And 4 of them go out. The story starts when the 4 of them have already been out there for a couple of days, and then 2 show up on one day and 2 more the next day. Well, when these 2 show up, they find the camp empty, and they go down the debris trail, down the game trail. The debris trail turns into a debris trail, and they start picking the cameras off to see what's been going on. And there's some really weird things on the cameras, and the 4 guys are missing. And then the next 2 show up. Those 2 the first 2 get attacked by something, and the next 2 show up the next day, and now these 4 go off into the wilderness to go find their buddies, and they eventually run into what turns out to be a Sasquatch.
Oh wow, that's great. So yeah,
it's a Sasquatch tale, because I live in the Pacific Northwest, and there are Sasquatches everywhere apparently, and I've done a ton of research, and I know people who have seen them or claim to have seen them. So I did a big giant dive into a Sasquatch, and the Sasquatch speak the Douglas dialect, which I'm Douglas, so that seemed interesting to me, which is the indigenous people of some indigenous people in Canada still speak the Douglas dialect, and they can claimedly converse with Sasquatch because they've seen them, and they can wander out into the woods and have a conversation. And it's a whole bunch of mythology, and it's basically, 4 guys go and get their ass kicked.
Kind of a Deliverance meets Sasquatch kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like Predator meets the Gray.
I like that. All right, even better, even more. That's so funny. I always do like 70s and 80s references, and even 60s, rather than something like you said, Predator versus the Gray. That's even better. So you got your elevator pitch ready, Aaron. That's terrific. Exactly. I like it.
It's Predator meets the Gray. Yeah, it's Alex Ponovic running around in the forest beating people up. So yeah, that's how it works.
That sounds great.
Yeah, life imitates art. So yeah,
that's terrific, and I'm glad you're thinking that again. Why not show it as a proof of concept as a comic, and maybe that'll help eventually sell the film. That's wonderful. And that's Stephanie also asked about finding Cliff. Did Joe put you guys together, or how did Cliff end up on the project?
Joe, when I tell a story to Joe, he will go, okay, yeah, write me a script. So I write him the script, and then he reads it, and then he visualizes what artist he thinks is probably best to draw that. And so he put me together with Cliff for drums, and it was like a, marriage made in heaven. And then he put me, then he said, would you do Cliff again for this? And I said, absolutely. So yeah, it's all Joe's doing. He loves, Joe. He loves to be like the mastermind behind everything. When in reality, he's not. He's not a mastermind of anything. He's kind of a bumbling fool. But other than that, it's like, Joe, you're great. No, you're not. Yeah, but he likes to be the one that thinks that he's the puppet master. Yeah,
that's excellent. How far into your acting career did you start writing ideas and trying to think along those lines as well as getting parts?
I didn't start writing at the beginning. It's funny because when I was younger, acting was something that those people did. It was like those people that they're not a part of my world or my universe. They're far away and they're on TV and they do all these things. And then when I started acting, it's like the cliche thing. I'm an actor, but I really want to produce and direct and write, and it's like stupid, which actually you kind of everybody wants to. And so it wasn't till really into Battlestar when I would find myself when we would go out for cast and writers directors nights for dinners and stuff. I would find myself sitting at the end of the table where the writers were and the directors were, and just picking their brains about, so how do you get to this, and how do you get to that, and how do you create this concept, and what are you looking to do, and how do you do it? I remember one of them telling me, it was Bradley Thompson and David Weddle from Battlestar, like just two amazing guys.
Yep.
And they said, I said, so basically, how do you write for Chief? How do you write for my character? And they said, we go along and we get him just so he's about to have a really good thing, and then we just throw a giant roadblock in front of him, and it just screws up his life. That's the thing. So the audience is like, yay, the Chief's going to have a win. Oh, no. And I said, oh, that's really interesting. He said, yeah, the fans hate us, but this is what's compelling. It's like he never gets the win. And I thought, that is so interesting. Because otherwise, yeah, you're writing CSI where the good guys win at the end of the day. I don't know why we're beating the hell out of CSI, but make a better show, for Christ's sake. Yeah,
you're killing me. Well, they must be doing something right, having 3 or 4 spinoffs and being on the air for 20 plus years.
Yeah, they were a radio play before TV was invented, so they're doing something right for sure. But yeah, it's fascinating. One of my best friends in the world is Mark Verheiden. Ran the writers' room of Battlestar.
Yes,
started in comics way back in the day. Just the sweetest, kindest, loveliest, amazing human being. I'm so honored to call him such a great friend. We are collaborating on something that we can't talk about right now, but
congratulations! That's terrific. Because
we are writing a comic book together.
Oh, that's even better. Hey, man, great serendipity, because really early on in Word Balloon, I reached out to Mark because I loved his comics and saw that he was doing Galactica. He came on right when the second season, I think it was between the first and second seasons, because, and forgive me because I'm trying to remember the arc, but it's when Baltar wins the election and becomes president, and that incredible season when you guys are on the planet. Yeah. And you get the whole resistance and everything. My God, what a fantastic! I mean, and also really, I also got to meet him finally face to face when he was doing Falling Skies for TNT.
Yep.
So I was on a press junket for that. But yeah, I got tremendous respect for Mark as a writer. Great run on Superman. His independent comic that he did for Dark Horse, The American, which is that great, as you know, kind of a Captain America. Like, real behind the scenes look at a Captain America kind of patriotic hero and what was really going on with him and the government. Fantastic story. So yeah, that's great to hear. And I've just got nothing but tremendous respect for Mark, and it's cool that you guys are doing something new. Very cool.
Yeah, we're we've gotten a verbal green light from a particular company, but we're just waiting. He's so busy. He's got a bunch of other things going on right now. But anyways, but yeah. So but like to go back to the thing is
yeah,
talking to Mark about writing and how you flesh out TV versus like just novella kind of things, and then comic books. It's all storytelling, as you know, as everybody knows.
Of course.
It's storytelling, but it's just in a different form. And so being able to pick his brain literally daily is an incredible gift, because he is such a brilliant man.
What happened with well, first of all, Bradley and David, is Bradley the one that's in charge of the Writers Guild these days? I forget. I always maybe I'm no, David Goodman, excuse me.
David Goodman, yeah.
But again, that circle of writers at Galactica, especially Ron Moore.
Oh,
tremendous respect for Ron. Loved his Star Trek stuff. Met him briefly at a San Diego Comic-Con one year, and yeah, man, Carnival, another great series from him.
Yeah.
I mean, with your character, the Chief, did they always have the intent of it being that you were part of the ensemble and would have your own story, or did that build just because of the way you were able to perform? And was it kind of a mutual thing of, hey, this guy, is really catching on? I mean, you're very telegenic. I mean, we all really, man, as a longtime Battlestar fan, we loved your character right away and your performance. So yeah, I mean, how much of that was always part of the plan, or did it evolve?
From what I've been told, it was I was originally just offered to do the miniseries, and so I did the miniseries, and it was the interesting thing about the miniseries was Ron initially had the idea of having 4 boxes on the screen.
Oh wow!
So 4 different parts of the ship at the same time.
Sure.
And so there was no dialogue written.
Wow.
So they were showing like when Adama's doing like, we are at war, blah 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 blah, making it up as he goes because he can't read. They would show the different parts of the ship and all of us reacting. And then Ron went, when we started shooting, he said, no, I don't like that idea. Let's go to each place and just show. So, but there was no dialogue. So what happened in the miniseries was I had very few lines, but there was the one scene where we're all on the hangar deck, and I would just ad lib. I would always I always ad lib, and most of the time, like 99% of the time, if you ad lib on a film or TV set, the director, producers, writers hate you with the fire of 1,000 suns. But Michael Reimer, the director, and just an amazing human being, and David Icke were sitting at the Video Village, and David, I would just ad lib, and David would go, "Oh, that's great. That's great. It's great. Write that down." He'd just tell the script supervisor, Corey, write that down. That's great. Okay, I love that. So then he would come to me and he would say, "Okay, this scene doesn't have any dialogue. What would you say?" And I say, "I don't know. I'll make it up when I go. Just like, what's the situation? What, you're standing over there. So, okay, just turn it on and I'll do it." So it was the scene where Adama is doing the "we are at war, silence, blah, 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 blah." And it's me wandering around the deck, yelling at people. And there was no dialogue. So I just said, this is what we've trained for. You're the best of the best. Let's get the old girl back in the fight and kick some Cylon ass, and screaming and yelling. And I said, kick some Cylon ass. And you got all these other the background people and the other actors. They have no idea what's going to be said. So they're just listening. And then Michael Reimer is from Australia and doesn't like the rah Americana stuff. I go, kick some Cylon ass, and he just goes, oh my God. And David Icke goes, yes, kick their ass, yes. And so that was, they yelled cut, and David came out and said, oh my God, do it again. And then I just kept ad-libbing. I just kept making stuff up. One of my favorite lines is, get up, we'll sleep when we're dead. And
sure.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of ad libs in Battlestar that are just like fell out of my face because I just happened to be standing there with nothing to say. So I started yelling at somebody, and then so the character grew in the miniseries, and then in season 1, what I've been told is the water episode where Boomer does the water tank thing, and then
Yes.
and Chief was supposed to figure out that she's a Cylon, and then she was going to kill him. And they said, no, let's not kill the Chief because we kind of like him. Let's keep him. Like Hilo, Tomo, at the end of the miniseries, when he's doing the blinky eye superhero thing, as the ship, the Raptors are leading off, and he's like, yeah, and I just saved a bunch of people. Yeah, he's doing his best, Jack Bauer. So he was supposed to never show up again, but the network and the studio loved him so much, they said, okay, well, we got to bring him back. So now we have to go find Hilo, and we're going to keep the Chief because everybody liked what I was doing in the miniseries for the Chief. And then so they brought me back for season 1. And then after season 1, they said, they came to me and said, we're going to give you a contract through the rest of the show. Can you stay for the rest of the show? And I said, wow, thank you, please. Yes.
Yeah.
So I got to be a part of like one of the greatest TV shows, one of the best safe sci-fi shows of all time. And I am absolutely always humbled and grateful for it.
Well, first of all, thank you I'm really glad that we're able to talk about Galactica because, good Lord, truly, I adored the series, and really, what a great cast. And you and Tamo's scenes were amazing. You and Grace were great together. Forgive me, I'm forgetting the name of the woman that became your wife on the show.
Nikki Klein.
Nikki was amazing. Everybody you rubbed up against. Also, President Rosalind's, lieutenant that seduces you into doing the worst to poor Nikki and everything.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Seriously, man. And that's the great thing. The Chief's character really goes through so many different things. And good Lord, that Pegasus episode, the 2-parter with Michelle Forbes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And just again, there were really times where, they really made us like, oh my God, are they going to kill the Chief? Are they going to kill Tamo? Hilo. It was such great fun. And also it's really interesting to hear that initially he wanted to do the 4 boxes. I think back to Ang Lee's Incredible Hulk that he did, the first Hulk movie, and that they kind of experiment with that. And other movies have done it as well. But it is interesting, the visual choices. Really, for me, I thought the miniseries was fine, but I think all of us, that first episode, that 33. Holy shit. What a great hour of television.
It's one of the best episodes of TV. Like, pick any TV show. It's top 5. It absolutely is.
It really is.
It just grabs you and hooks you and go, oh my God, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? Yeah, that's the Get Up with Sleep When We're Dead. And they're all just in the hangar deck trying to have a nap. Like, Callie, shut up. That was scripted. Michelle, thank you. That wasn't scripted either. That was me just going, Callie, shut up. So yeah.
Did you watch, to inform your portrayal of the Chief? Did you watch like World War II movies? Because you're kind of like you were the Chief, but like as far as the military, you think of those sergeants and stuff. In fact, I loved hearing, and I remember this when Ron was doing his commentaries for the DVDs. So really, and I know originally they were podcasts, and I was listening to them, all the time before the DVD sets came out. But during the Resistance season of season 2, he was talking about Michael Hogan and Colonel Ty, and he's like, when you're in battle, you need Colonel Ty in the foxhole with you because he's going to get your ass out of there, and you're going to live. And the Chief had that same kind of attitude. So did you watch any classic kind of portrayals to kind of get in that mood, or was it just natural for you to do that?
I don't watch things to try and emulate anything. You watch things to inform yourself. Like the one thing that I did sort of really pay attention to was the beginning of season 3 when David Icke gave me the Mario Savio speech. At the beginning of season 3, Chief's got the beard and he's got the glasses, and you have to lay your body on the gears of the thing.
Yes,
that he sent me the speech, and I thought that was really interesting because I wanted to, pay homage to it and honor it. But I'm a huge World War II nerd. Like, I'm a huge history guy. I read history stuff out the wazoo. I love World War II stuff. So I've read, every book I can find. I watch every movie I can do, and this is well before Battlestar. I find it absolutely fascinating. One of my grandfathers was landed on D-Day, fought his way inland, and then got sent back and worked as a firefighter at an RAF field in London, in England.
Wow.
To finish out the war. My other grandfather went and lost his leg and got sent home. So it's just like this stuff I just find absolutely fascinating. We have no idea. We're so bloody soft. Yeah.
Oh, good Lord, yes. My God. Well, and also, especially coming from the lower 48 and everything, we're so like pigeonholed with what America did during World War II that truly it is great to hear the stories of not just the RAF, but and both the RAF from England and also the Canadian contribution to the war effort and everything. So I'm sure there are tons of stories that Americans have no idea about, like what the British and Canadian. I mean, God, the celebration of I can't remember. I guess it was D-Day, or it was something else where really it was so much more. It wasn't D-Day. I forget which. And here's my knucklehead moment, but where really it was really the Russians that were really kind of leading the charge at one of the classic battles. And again, we're all about the red, white, and blue in lower 48, which is great. I'm not against patriotism, but yeah, I mean, it really was like, hey, that really was handled by the Russians, and they deserve the credit for the Eastern Front and what they had to deal with the Nazis on their own turf and everything. So
you go to the Netherlands and you tell them that you're Canadian, and you'll never buy a beer again, and you'll get hugged for the rest of your life. Because the thing that I'm so proud of Battlestar, and I'm so happy about it, and honored to have been a part of it. But my favorite thing is because Ron's background is he has military service.
Yes.
Bradley and David have military service, and we had a guy before we shot the miniseries named Ron Blecker, who is retired U.S. Army Ranger, and Ron rose to the highest rank of a Ranger, faster than anyone in the history of the Rangers, because he took all of these he took everything that he could, every shitty mission he could, and they just kept bumping him up. He parachuted into Panama in the whole Panama thing. He was helicopters flying in Black Hawk Down. He was in one of the helicopters that didn't land. It was like one of the ones waiting to get permission to go down. He's medically retired because he's been blown up like 1,000 times. But he took the cast, the main cast, officers and enlisted people, and we went out to like a Boy Scout camp for 3 nights, and he broke us up into the 2 groups and taught us how to march and how to stand and salute and how to dress and how to do everything. It was funny. It was like that Monty Python, marching up and down the square. And we just march back and forth and like left, right. And when your head, you're going like, I can left, right. But when there's somebody barking at you, you're going like right. And you're just going in a circle. You're so freaked out. He was so intimidating, but he was the kindest man. And then he stayed with us through the miniseries and through season 1. And it was, he was such a treasure for me. Because he would just come up and go, no, you don't stand like that. No, you wouldn't wear it like that. No, what are you doing? Put that down. Don't carry that. Don't do this. Like, he made us look right. And my favorite thing is when I'm out in the world and somebody comes up, wants to talk Battlestar, and they are a current or ex-military person, they say, you got it right. I know a chief just like you. I work with a chief just like you. I used to work with a chief just like you. It's the greatest compliment that I can get when people come up and just go, hey, I'm military, I'm this, I'm that, I'm Air Force, whatever. Or as the Army guys call them, Chair Force, which I think is really funny, but the Air Force people don't like that. It's a lot of fun, and I really appreciate when service people come up and just watch the show, say that we got it right. I get stories. You go to a convention and a guy will come up and he says, I just got back from Iraq, and our whole thing on Friday was to go out on patrol and get back, because in the hangar, up on the big screen on Air Force television or Army military television, whatever, they're showing Battlestar Galactica at 10 p.m. and everybody gets back from patrol, and you're in the middle of a firefight. It's like, get these guys down. We got to get back for the show.
Wow.
It's like, what? You guys,
yeah.
Please be safe. Please be safe.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
Jesus. No, but again, that was the greatness of the show, was the reality of it. And I was telling friends who weren't sci-fi people, I'm like, no, you don't get it. Like, this is the most real world look at a sci-fi idea. And it really is more about, what if the end of the world happened and you only had 50,000 people left and there was somebody coming after you? That is going to make it that much harder to keep civilization going. What are the choices you make? And that's why, good Lord, the way it was so grounded, and that, the civilian outfits, were nothing different than everyday, early 2000s apparel. The military outfits were great, but again, it was the attitude of the military. And you guys all just seemed to really understand what you were doing and played in a very realistic way. I mean, that's why we always give it up to Shatner for Star Trek, because as goofy as this stuff was, Shatner was committed, and he's grabbing a paper mache boulder, but in his hands, he believes it's a real boulder. And Adam West the same way. I mean, Adam West was doing farce, but he just did it with that very straight-laced way of, I believe the reality that I'm existing in. And again, I think that's the key to the best shows, and especially when they have crazy ideas, to be as grounded as possible. And certainly, and you've done a modern Twilight Zone, and that was the great thing about Serling and a lot of the Twilight Zone episodes, was that they would start very much in reality and just kind of twist it. Back to your comic, there's a very Twilight Zone-y kind of feel, I think, in the story as well.
Oh yeah, you know what? I hadn't thought of that. It's the pitches. Is Shawshank meets The Sixth Sense, but yeah, there's definitely a Twilight Zone, because at the end you go, oh, whoa, what? Okay, if that really happened, then what does that mean for everything else? Yeah,
that's why I didn't want to show. I wanted to show examples of Cliff's art, but given that it is a 40-page story, I didn't want to give too much away. Yeah. So that's why I was okay with just kind of showing some of the initial framing scenes to kind of give a sense of what you're dealing with in your story, man. So, and here B even says, and I agree with her, that, what happens in Battlestar is still very relevant today. So if I may, there was a great moment. I got to meet Eddie almost at a couple conventions, and I saw him. This was so great, and I always like telling this story. Somebody came up with the Battlestar board game and wanted him to sign the board, and the playing surface. And he didn't just sign his name; he literally put a paragraph on this thing and to Joe, the Cylons will never defeat us. We will make it to Earth. So say we all. Edward James Olmos, aka Commander Adama. And it was just the coolest thing. And it was before I got a chance to talk to him. And I'm like, that is fantastic, man. That is commitment. And you could tell. So, I imagine a lot of you had that same love of the show. And just tell me about the ensemble and then maybe your friends within the cast and everything in particular.
It's such an interesting thing, because you talk to people, you do movies, TV shows, even for several years and stuff. You talked about, do you keep in touch with anybody? And no one does. There's certain shows that they still talk to each other. Battlestar, we talk to each other all the time.
That's great.
All the time. I'm in Santa Barbara right now doing a movie. I flew into LA yesterday and drove up here. Michael Trucco and James Callis are furious with me that I didn't stop by to give them a hug and say hi, and I just had to go straight up. But you can't, James, you can't just stop by, say hello. You can't just give me a hug. You can't just stop for 5 fucking minutes, Aaron, really, Aaron. And so yeah, Trucco was like, I'm in the pool, I've got beer, why don't you come over? And the friendships I've made are everlasting, and they are all really genuinely amazing people. Tomo, Trisha, just you go down the list. I have a thread that literally is, there's 50 texts a day, and it's Alex Ponovic, Tom Pennickett, and Trisha and Truco, and we just send each other stupid pictures and funny things, and just constantly just being just dum-dums. I love these people. They are my family. I would do anything for them, and I know that they would do anything for me. They're kind, they're sweet, they're not pretentious. Yeah, it's amazing. Mary is like,
wow.
Mary is, oh, there is no, wow doesn't describe Mary. That woman is everything and more. She's acting with her it's a masterclass in paying attention and trying not to freak out that she's really mad at you. No, her character's mad at your character. Mary's not really mad at you. It's okay. We had a scene in Battlestar where I'm signing papers. I'm arguing against the killing of Callie or whatever the hell it was, and Mary's just staring at me, and she's like, no, and then she dismisses me like, that's it, Chief, you can go. And I had this moment of like, I kind of broke down. I was like really, really wounded, and she saw it, and they yelled cut, and I kind of stood there, and I heard this little voice go, Aaron, honey, and I looked at her, and Mary was looking at me, and she said, I love you. Aww. And I just went, oh. She just completely diffused it all, because Mary's now telling me, as opposed to her character. I got lost in the character versus the person, which is such a weird thing. But that's how potent she is when she's acting with you. She is marvelous. Absolutely.
Well, that was my argument to people who didn't understand. I'm like, you don't get it, man. Mary McDonnell and Edward James Olmos, I'm like, they're brilliant actors. They don't treat it like it's a sci-fi thing and it's goofy or anything. I'm like, they believe in the reality, and their performance informs that, and it really does put you on a level of, you forget that it is this space opera, and it's like, no, these are real people with real problems, and they're making really hard choices. Yeah. And God, and just again, I really did. I loved it through the end. I know some people aren't crazy about that the finale, but God, I just thought it was so heart-wrenching, and everybody. It was amazing, man.
I thought it was great. How else are you going to end the show? Like we show up on Earth, and there's like 10 million copies of the Final Five. Like there's 400,000 chiefs and 1.2 million. Like, okay, so the Earth is so here's a story for you. We got time? Can I tell you? We
got as much time as you can spare, man. That's beautiful.
So the middle of season 3, when we paused and we had found burnt out Kobol.
Yes.
So the writer's strike happened right when we were filming the burnt out part, where we were all standing on the beach, and it was constant. We would all just stand there and wait for Mary or somebody to be on because they're constantly on their phone going, yeah, okay, no, I think we're going to strike. Not sure. I think we're going to strike. Ron Moore flew up and came and addressed everybody and said, the show's going on. We're going to take a little break because it's happening. And then he was so upset, and we were going to go for dinner, take him out for dinner, and he just said no, and he flew back to LA same day. He just like, wow. I just need to go to my home. I need to go home. So, and Ron is the fucking greatest guy in the world. But so we're standing there on the burnt out beach, whatever, and we just got word that we're going on strike, or their writers are going on strike, and the show is going to pause. So the season 3 pause, and James turned to me and he said, Aaron, you realize if the strike goes on too long, they're going to give up the sets, and this will be the end of Battlestar Galactica. So had the writer's strike gone 2, maybe 3 more weeks, that's how the show would have ended.
Wow.
Right there on burnt out Kobol. The show would have ended. There wouldn't have been a back half of season 3. There wouldn't have been season 4. That would have been it. The show would have ended. And it was horrifying. At the moment, I went, holy shit, yeah, you're right. Oh my God, that's terrible. And he said, yeah, it is. And then he had a cigarette and everything was all right with him. So yeah, but
No.
yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, but what a great, I mean, honestly, and certainly I'm glad that you guys had another half season and another full season before you were done.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, I can appreciate the emotional punch of that kind of bitter. That's like a 70s movies ending of, guess what? No happy ending. Yeah, they made it to Earth and it's all burnt out, right? And that's what you're describing. And I mean, it literally doesn't Eddie say at the end, just Earth. And it's that kind of flat, like, yeah, we made it. Look what we made it to and everything. And truly, that was like a holy shit moment and stuff.
Now that's what we do. Yeah. But the thing that I find interesting, looking back mostly, is just how gutted the cast and crew were that would have been the ending. Like, we're standing there on set going, oh my God, this sucks. Like, this would really, really suck. And it's not just because we're losing our jobs, because, everybody's gone on to do amazing things and gone on other work, but we wanted to see this thing through. And then to not get that opportunity, man, that would have really just been brutal.
So was the ending? I mean, did they know where they were going? I've been fascinated. I've had writers of Alias and Lost and other big epic shows like that. In fact, last week I just had the showrunners of Lucifer, Joe Henderson and Ildi Modrovich, who they're adorable. And I've known Joe since Joe's been one of my Hollywood buddies that was just breaking into screenwriting when we first got to know each other. And I'm so happy with the way his career and getting 6 years out of Lucifer. Did they know where they were always going in terms of, like, do you know if the finale was pretty much the destination?
So after season 1, before we started shooting season 2, we had a big cast dinner, and I got Ron alone at the bar before we all got seated, and I asked him, so, okay, what's your vision for the show? And he said he knew the beginning and the end. He just didn't know how to get there or what it would take to get there, and he didn't know how long it was going to be. So is it 2 years? Is it 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is? And so I think it ended the way he wanted. I think it ended a little more quickly than he wanted, but that was the network kind of pinching pennies and not, giving us full reign to just keep going. But that, I mean, I'm talking out my ass here. I don't know what the hell. But yeah, so it was the middle part that he didn't know, and it sort of grew and evolved as the show went on. Like, they would go on these writers' retreats between seasons, and they would go, okay, let's break down the next season. What happens? And the writers would just pitch things, and they put it up on the big board. Mark tells me these great, amazing. You got to have Mark back on to talk about Battlestar in the writers' rooms.
I would love that.
Vegas, ask him about Vegas. Ask him about Tahoe. Ask him. Yeah, there's a few things I'll send you. You can ask Mark about, and how they would start the day. Okay, all right, we're gonna get serious. Let's talk about this, and then somebody would go, "Oh, would anybody like a little drink?" And dunk, and then it was like, "Okay, the writers' room's done. They're just on booze bags for the rest of the day." I didn't say that. It didn't happen, Mark. I promise you, I didn't say that. Yeah, but so it's fascinating that they would just, like, he tells the story of how they just landed on the final 5, and it was originally just the final 4 because it was us, and they just put everybody's head. I thought we were either not going to meet the final 5, or we would run into them sometime, like we did Pegasus, just happenstance.
Sure.
Across.
Sure.
I didn't realize that they would come from within. So they decided, okay, they're gonna come from within, and they're like sleepers. And so they put up all the cast's pictures on a wall, and then one by one, the writers in the room would go up and make an argument why it should or should not be this person. And then they'd pull a picture off, and they'd pull a picture off, and they'd pull a picture off, and they'd pull a picture off, until they got down to the 4 of us. And then they said, okay, well, who's the 5th? And they're like, oh, well, we'll get to that later. You know what? Let's leave 1. And then they left the 1, which turned out to be Kate. And so so it was the final 4, and then became the final 5.
And then again, I mean, what a spin for your character to have that discovery of being a sleeper agent and stuff, and just holy shit, what? I mean, the subtext was always on your face, and what does that mean? If I'm not who I've always thought I am, well, then who am I? And Michael also Hogan is another great example of someone that really, really,
he still hates it. He still hates it.
That's fantastic. That's amazing. He there's a comic book artist that I'm very good friends with, Art Baltazar, and he mostly does kids comics. And he wound up in a limo with Michael at shows years and years ago when it was still going on. And in Chicago, right by the airport, the Rosemont shows, we're sitting around, and Michael walks up and sees Art, and in that wonderful voice of his, that flinty voice, like, Jesus, Artie, where you been? I've been looking for you for 3 days. And he sits down with us, and we're like, dude, you on the courtroom seat when he's being in the trial of Baltar, and his as I said, I'm like, that's your Kane Mutiny moment, man. Yeah. I'm like, and he's like, he goes, that's what I was going for. And how is he? I know he had an injury or something a couple of years ago. Is he doing okay? He's still in not hospice, but he's still in care. Okay.
His motor skills are really diminished.
That's hard to hear, man. Yeah,
it absolutely fracking sucks.
Yeah.
He's the kindest, sweetest man. He's the male Mary in terms of acting.
Wow.
Just you get in the scene with Hogan and you have no idea where it's going to go. You know the words are going to come out, but you don't know how they're going to come out, and he'll just add little things, and he just completely falls into Colonel Ty. He's just, hang on a second. I need another beer for this story.
Do it, Aaron. I appreciate you talking as long as you have. That's amazing, man. So everybody, you can see Aaron is on location. He's working on a new project. We're going to talk about that in a second. But this is great, honestly, man. I appreciate the time and the story.
Here, I'm going to be like full dick move for people who are.
It's all good, man. There you go. Go outside. Look at that. Look at that.
Yeah.
You gotta love Santa Barbara because then fall hasn't hit Santa Barbara. Like Chicago today was like high of 60, and it's like, all right, it's fall. What are you gonna do? It's okay.
Baseball's almost done, and then you're sitting in Chicago Bear Stadium, just freezing your nuts off. So I went on the Battlestar set one time, and so the stages are these huge rooms. So think of it like a giant Walmart with no pillars. It's just this big one giant tall space, and we had like 5 of these stages, and one of them was the hangar deck, one of them was the CIC. There was all these different things, and there was one of them is the CIC and hallways and the pilot quarters and officers' quarters and all this stuff, and we were filming on there. So I just kind of like wandering around having a look, and between the outside walls and the stage, the sets on the inside, they have to have like, I think it's 8 or 10 or 12 feet. It's like a fire lane. So you can run all the way around the stage, all the way around the sets without banging into shit.
Okay.
But when you're on the outside, it's just like, it's an unfinished basement. It's just, joists and studs and stuff. But you can pull walls out and peek into the room so they can put a camera through there, right? And
sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, but they're paper thin. So you're standing inside. If anybody's on the other side having a phone conversation, you can hear every word because there's nothing. It's drywall. So I'm in one of these rooms, and it's dead quiet. I think I'm the only person on the stage. I think I'm alone, and I suddenly hear this. What the hell is going on? What is happening? So I go running outside, and I go around the corner. I go, And it's Hogan. He's standing there. He's warming up his voice for the day. He's doing his vocal exercise. It's like, what the hell are you doing? He's like, warming up. What are you talking about? I go, okay. All right, buddy. Okay. He's like, hey, bitty, 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 bitty. Peas and bees, peas and bees, peas and bees. Okay. It's the old theater. It's the old theater guys. It's just lunatics. Absolutely.
That's outstanding. That's fantastic, man. So certainly, as we were just saying, you're in Santa Barbara. You're making a TV show or a movie. I'm not sure which. You're making a movie. Excuse me.
Movie. Yeah.
Very cool. And yeah, you were telling me about. I don't know how much you want to reveal, so I'll let you say what you can about the project.
A buddy of mine is producing this film, and they lost an actor sort of a little bit last minute, and they had a bit of a script rewrite. And he just reached out to me and said, actually, he reached out and said, well, he didn't reach out, but I found out, just my agents just said, hey, can you, are you available to go to Santa Barbara and do this thing? And I said, yeah, I think so. I don't have anything. You guys know my schedule better than I do. And they said, okay, so this is what it is. Are you interested in doing it? And I said, yeah, sure, of course. And then like, how the hell does this just come up? And then I found out it's a buddy of mine. He's producing this movie, and they lost an actor, and they did a little script rewrite. And he just said to the director, writer, director, producer, my buddy would be great for this. You know him from Battlestar, Aaron, and what do you think? And the director said, yeah, please, can you reach out? They had reached out, and so, yeah. So I play Corbin Burnson's best friend in this film, which is ridiculous.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm doing my best not to just blow him up with questions about Major League. That's really that's what I'm going for. Yeah, that's all I'm going for is
Roger Dorn. Absolutely.
Roger Dorn. Please just don't ruin him for Roger Dorn. That's the only thing that I can do. Yeah. And the first pitch is just a little outside.
Euchre, absolutely. You know, I was in sports radio on and off for 15 years and got to know Euchre and everything. He's amazing.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. Well, you know, again, Chicago, Milwaukee's right above us and stuff.
Of course.
And also both in the, you know, back when it was in the American League, they were in the same division as the White Sox. Yeah. And then, of course, you know, then they went to the National and then they went to the National League, and they've been playing the Cubs. So, yeah, no, there was plenty of times where Euchre would come down to Chicago and stuff and hang out. And I have friends in the Brewers organization that know him really well. Great. So, yeah, he's amazing. And, yeah, you're right. I even do love that Bakula third movie of Major League. I mean, the first two are amazing. And the third one is a third – you know, what are you going to do when it's a second sequel? You know, I mean, come on. But no, he's terrific in all three. And I loved him in Psych. He's a great actor. And L.A. Law, of course. Good Lord.
Yeah. Well, he just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. Yeah. And yeah. And so the thing that I'm struggling with is because when you meet somebody like, do you really want to just like open them? Like, I'm a big fan. All right. But you can't really do that. So
sure.
My amazing friend Michelle has been giving me things that we have in common, and I recently renovated my house. I like woodworking and wood renovations, and apparently Corbin does a similar thing. He likes woodworking and renovation stuff. So I've got a laundry list of things that I can open with and go, hey, how about this? Yeah, are you interested in this? Or not even just say it out loud to somebody else who happens to be standing there. And if he's like close, he'll turn and go, oh, you know, I also do that. Like, oh, really? Well, that's fascinating. Hi, I'm Aaron. Nice to meet you. I want to engage, but I don't want to be that guy, if that makes sense.
I do. No, I know exactly what you mean, dude. That's why I'm so pleased that you're willing to talk Galactica with me and everything, because again, I've been a longtime fan of that. And I'm so glad that things have worked out and that you, again, keep getting nods to do your bits. I mean, you were in iZombie, you're in Van Helsing, where you had recurring characters and stuff. And I mean, the IMDb page seems to suggest that, you know, things, knock on wood, are going great. And that, you know, the performance that you did in Galactica obviously caught a lot of people's attention, and you're able to get these other opportunities. That's the you know, hope for, I'm sure, every actor.
Exactly. Yeah. I've been very blessed, and yeah, people seek me out because of Battlestar, but also because of other things. And yeah. I also have great agents. I have a great team. So
Nice.
I'm very blessed to keep doing what I'm doing.
Are you able? Stephanie was asking if any chance of a convention in the next 6 to 9 months. Are you, how's your schedule, and are you eyeing shows as we slowly creep out of COVID and everything, and shows are slowly coming back?
Yeah, I don't think I'm quite ready to go wandering into the convention thing just yet.
I hear you.
I know a bunch of the Battlestar cast went to Dragon Con, and I was like, guys, I don't know. Dragon Con's, great.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people in a tiny room, and people can just wander in off the street. I'm just, I don't want to get into the whole COVID versus not, but
I hear you, man.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna wait until we're really past things before I go jumping into rooms filled with people.
I understand. Oh man, I guess Stephanie's still in the military and stuff. Says she's about to get stationed overseas for a couple of years. Would love to say in person. I can totally appreciate that, but I also get what you're saying, man. Because that's so funny here. Your people. Michelle says, "Frack, no, you're not doing COVID super spreader conventions." There you go.
Yes,
absolutely.
Michelle, I love you. I am not doing any super spreader conventions. I promise.
Hey,
but Stephanie, if you're ever anywhere where I am, find me. We'll just go have a beer. We can do that. That's not super spreader. Michelle can hook that up. There you go.
That's excellent. That's great, man. There you go. And that's great to hear. And no, man, hey, I was just in Connecticut for Terrificon at Mohegan Sun, the Native American casino. And on the one hand, it was like, God, it's so great to be at a convention again. But I can't deny I was really I felt lousy and got tested post-convention thinking, oh, shit, I got something. I don't know what the hell happened. And I literally, if I wasn't doing a panel, moderating a panel, I was back in my room, like kind of staying away from everybody. And thankfully, I checked out and I was, I'm vaccinated and I wear a mask and everything. But yeah, it's, again, it's unfortunately, these are uncertain times. So
yesterday was my first flight in 2 years. And it's such a surreal experience to just like, am I really going to go get on a plane with all these people? And yeah, and I got on a plane with all these people. And then, but you just think differently. It's like, okay, well, you can get an Uber from LAX up to Santa Barbara, or you can rent a car and drive yourself. It's like, yeah, I'm going to rent a car and drive myself. So I'm alone. I'll roll the windows down and, wander up the 101 as opposed to sitting, no offense to the Uber drivers, but I'd rather not be with somebody I don't know than just I'll drive myself. It's good.
No, I hear you, man. Well, the good news is you've got these other projects rolling.
I do.
So there will be excuses for you to do other conventions coming up. But truly, I appreciate your time. Again, the book is out next week. It's 10 Years to Death. It's from Aftershock. Great Cliff Richards art and great Aaron Douglas story. A terrific novella that is worth your attention next week when you're picking up your books. And hey, man, no, it's truly my pleasure. As always, continued success. And here I'm just checking to see. I was just seeing if there's any other final comments. But please come back when you got something new to promote, man. It would be my pleasure. And I'm so glad because some celebrities don't want to do conventions. It's terrific that you're out there and you get the victory lap that you and the rest of the ensemble that does conventions deserve, as far as meeting the fans and giving us the opportunity to tell you how much we appreciate your work. So way to go.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate everybody that shows up to conventions, or just even that they don't come to conventions. They follow me on Twitter. They send me things, and I always say, like, you go to a convention and you're a demigod for a weekend. Like the Starbucks barista doesn't get the thank you for your work. If we spend a little bit more time in life just appreciating people for what they do, even if it's a little tiny thing, somebody who's really, really kind at the gas station, somebody who's really kind at the grocery store, wherever you are, just pay back the kindness. Just say thank you. Just say, I really appreciate your work. I really appreciate you doing the thing for me. It's great. And yeah, I plug away. I do everything I can, and I really appreciate the people that follow me and support me. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. And I hope you like the book. And if you get the book and you like it, talk to me and ask me questions about it. And if you want to hear more stories, then tell Aftershock or whomever, and I will write more stories and get Cliff, or if anybody else wants to draw it, to do them.
That sounds great, man. And thank you, Michelle. I'm glad you enjoyed the interview. Again, it was truly my pleasure. And everybody, 10 Years to Death from Aftershock Comics, from Cliff Richards and Aaron Douglas. A great book, and definitely worth your time, man. So I'm going to plug what I'm doing tomorrow night. I do a show with my buddy Gabriel Hardman, who's a great Hollywood storyboard artist. And we do a show called Kinescope, and we look back at the early days of television. Tomorrow night, we're going to be discussing the TV production of Requiem for a Heavyweight. We'll get into the movie as well with Anthony Quinn, but really interesting. You know, Rod Serling wrote it. Jack Palance was the original heavyweight. I'm a longtime boxing writer. I wrote for Ring and Boxing Illustrated for a long time, and yeah, we're gonna have a fun discussion tomorrow about that anthology production in particular. But yeah, we do it every week. I don't know if you're an old TV fan as far as that stuff from the early days of TV.
We now go live to Aaron Douglas interviewing John on his own show. Okay, John. Sorry, your podcast is going to.
Please. Oh, it's my pleasure. I know. Again, man, as much time as you willing to talk to me is great.
Oh, God. I have, okay. Non-boxing related. Have you ever, tell me the sporting events that you've been in person where the championship trophy has been presented?
I'll be honest, that is what was always reserved for our hosts, our sports talk hosts. But I did get to go to a couple playoff games. And, during the Bulls 6 championships, I had my share of playoff games. And that was amazing against the Knicks, against the Jazz, things like that. And I always feel bad when I talk to my Canadian friends. I'm not the biggest hockey fan, but I had incredible encounters.
Well, that's it for me, everybody. Thanks very much. I know, I'm sorry. I'm just going to close the thing now. Yeah.
Exactly. But no, the 90s was my big 10-year period at the best sports radio station I worked at, where I had the most access. And Doug Gilmore, got to know him well. And yep, and poor Bob Probert was the GM. The Blackhawk enforcer.
No, Bob Probert. Yeah, he played.
Was it Bob Probert?
Yeah, he played for the Wings as well.
Yes. Man, what a heartbreaking life, and truly was a very sweet guy. Yeah. But Jeremy Roenick, good dude. So yeah, man. I mean, and that's the thing that I got to meet a lot of these guys. Even though I wasn't that into hockey. You would think as a boxing fan I would be more into hockey.
So you've never been
not at a Super Bowl, not at a World Series game.
You weren't there?
85 Bears, I was that was way back prior to my sports radio career, but I was working in mid-state Illinois, in Bloomington, Illinois, and we were an affiliate of the Bears, and so we did get to run that championship season. So it was great being the local producer, going from the network, the radio network and the network spots to our local spots, and having to do a competent job of producing the show. And I know a lot of the 85 Bears because, again, I spent 10 years in sports radio. So McMahon and Walter Payton was a very good friend. Amazing guy. Yeah, I mean, that's truly, man, I've led this very Forrest Gump life, both in sports and in the nerd sphere as far as celebrities and stuff. And yeah, I mean, God, Doug Buffon of the Bears from the 70s, a dear friend of mine. Butkus was always great to me. Walter was always great to me. McMahon, Jimbo Covert, Vensick, pretty much all the 85 Bears.
I spent a weekend with Richard Dent at an event.
The Colonel.
Yeah, it was wild. Like this house of a man just wandering around, and super kind and very sweet to everybody. and Super Bowl MVP. Like, just yeah.
You know, it was amazing with Richard. I got to know him well, and it was really heartbreaking. The Bears had their centennial a year or so ago. I think it was 2019. And Jeff Joniak, the radio voice of the Bears, a good friend of mine. And I really got to know Gale Sayers. And in fact, here's a nice story. Gale Sayers and his wife were so – I happened to be, while I was breaking into radio, a bank teller of theirs. They had their accounts there. And when I got into radio and I was producing and occasionally hosting, Mrs. Sayers recognized me and brought Gail over. And she's like, John, we are so proud of you. And she's like, look at you living your dream.
Oh, my God.
And truly, and she's like, Gail, do you remember John from the bank? And he's like, well, yeah, now that I think about it. After that, every time I would see Gail, he would be like, are they treating you all right? How you doing? He would want to know how I was doing in my radio career.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so truly, I mean, I it broke my heart when he passed away, but I also know, sadly, he had really bad Alzheimer's. And mentioning Richard, they did the Bears Centennial, and they had Gail on stage. He was in a wheelchair. He wasn't walking by himself. He didn't really know where he was, and thank God Richard was really his caretaker. And there were times on stage where Gail would lean into Richard and go, can we leave? You know, can we go now? No. And it's like, no, Gail, we got to sit here for a while. Don't worry, everything's fine. And just kind of kept reassuring him. But that's the kind of mensch Richard Dent was and everything. And truly, all those 85 Bears and other subsequent years as well. Most of the athletes I meet are really sweet people. And it was a pleasure. And yeah, boxing, I mean, the same thing. It's funny, you know, the Ken Burns Ali documentary is running right now on public television, and got to interview Ali. I met all the big heavyweights of the 70s except for Joe Frazier. But Larry Holmes, Ken Norton, Ali, guys like Ron Lyle, George Chuvalo, the great George Chuvalo, great Canadian hero. So, yeah, man. No. And, so, but no, that's I appreciate the question.
So the great, okay, so going back, we have to include boxing then. The greatest boxing match you attended in person?
I was very lucky, and I mean, I covered a couple of Mike Tyson fights, like when he destroyed Frank Bruno in
15 seconds and it's over,
and then but the best fight that I got to cover for Boxing Illustrated, and even got the fight of the month that month, was when middleweight champion Michael Nunn lost his title in an upset to James Lights Out Tony from Detroit. And it was this is early 90s, like 90, 91, around that era and stuff. But I mean, I got to interview De La Hoya, and I covered De La Hoya fight with Fernando Vargas and a tune-up that he had before a big fight. Being in Chicago, I wasn't able to go as many as the great Vegas and LA and New York fights, but every now and then I would luck out and get the opportunity to go on the junket. And I always say I was a foot soldier sports reporter. I was never a big name, even locally or whatever. But George Foreman, got to talk to him. I mean, and interview him for a couple of his fights. Tommy Morrison, boy, Tommy, what a sad story.
Yeah.
But when he fought Foreman, I got to spend a lot of time with him. And, you know, he was around my age, too. So it was pretty obvious to me that Tommy was a guy that was kind of overwhelmed by the whole fame thing. He had already done Rocky V at that point and everything. Yeah. And I'm like, how are you handling this? I'm like, do you got friends that, you know, can kind of keep you grounded and stuff? And he goes, yeah, but it is still kind of nuts. And I'm like, well, Jesus, you know, and this is before he got sick. I'm like, well, God, I hope you're able to enjoy this. And watching that 30 for 30 that they made for ESPN about him and stuff, it's like, nah, he had a tough life, man. Yeah. So, you know, so yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It was, again, very Forrest Gumpian in terms of the athletes and the people that I've gotten to meet in my 30 years of broadcasting. It's been pretty amazing.
But you never got shot in the ass, though.
No.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Yeah. You got a good Bulls story?
No, I mean, just in terms of, I mean, again, it was during the 6 championships. So, and it was funny because our radio station started in 92, the year after the first championship. And we kind of grew our station on the backs of the Bulls' success because, you know, all the celebrities, not only in sports, but just Hollywood celebrities would come to town to see Bulls games. Gene Siskel was a good friend, the film critic. and he, certainly his profile expanded, and he was like our Jack Nicholson in terms of being at all the local games, and loved it and everything. So yeah, it was really cool, just the whole experience. I mean, really, and I was spoiled for those 10 years that I was doing this work at this one station. Plus, our sister station was like one of the big rock stations. So I got to meet Elvis Costello and Lyle Lovett and Brian Ferry from Roxy Music and John Fogerty. I mean, Tina Turner, all these incredible people. Oh, that's funny. My buddy Mike Capoboso. Yeah, Harry Carey. I like Will Ferrell's imitation, but I've got a million. And next time, Aaron, I'll tell you my Harry Carey stories, because I got to know Harry really well, and we all imitated Harry. Now wait a minute, John. That's not fair. The Cubs are doing this, and you're not giving them credit. And we're like, all right, Harry. I mean, the great thing was Harry doing a game was absolutely like on his own like planet and crazy. But you got him like sitting down with the cameras off, and the man was sharp as a tack and knew his best. Obviously, for the decades he covered it, could give you a very cogent argument about, again, you're short shrifting the Cubs, John. They're a good team. They're a good organization. And let me tell you why. And I'm like, go for it, Harry. You're the man. So, yeah, it was a blast. I appreciate you laughing at the invitation. So
I love it so much. My favorite Harry Carey thing is when he sat in the stands and called the game from the stands, and he was just crushing beers and sitting with the people, and he's calling the game. Like, how is this man a professional broadcaster? It's like they just went Joe from the bridge sitting in the stands is going to call the game now. Here you go. He's 27 beers deep, and he's like, right, wow, that was terrible. I don't know.
There's that great black and white photo of him shirtless at I'm sure a 100-degree day. Yeah. Hey, how you doing? All right, go White Sox. This is amazing. And but that's why we all loved him, man. And I don't feel bad talking about this, but back in St. Louis, something happened. Like either he had like an affair or something like that with one of the Bush family organization people, and he was like literally somebody tried to run him over. And It's like, and that's why he left, because he was with the Cardinals for decades and also doing big World Series calls and stuff on radio and TV, and really had this amazing career in St. Louis. And then all of a sudden it's like, I better get out of town. And he goes to Oakland for 1 year, and Charlie Finley, the cheapest owner in baseball history, had that magic 70s A's team. And as soon as they all were up for contract renewal, sold everybody away and, turned the A's to shit again. But thankfully, Harry made it to the White Sox, had several years with the White Sox. And then thankfully, the Chicago Tribune that owned the Cubs at the time saw the popularity of Harry. And, it's like Yankees Mets, where really the Cubs are kind of, even though the White Sox are having an incredible year, and I hope to God they make it to the series, the Cubs are like kind of the more popular team usually. And so, then he joined the Cubs in the early 80s. And for the rest of his life, like you were saying, you can't walk around without somebody buying you a drink or a beer and or a meal. And he was the mayor. He was the mayor of Chicago. He was an incredible man. And it was always a great time hanging out with him. He's a tremendous guy. I'm glad Mike mentioned Harry. So there you go. So there's some fun stories.
So great. There's nothing better than the sports guys, Like I know a bunch of like hockey players is mostly my thing. My favorite thing, if you have an ex-NHL guy, and there's a couple of them, and the sentence starts with, "Oh no, we had a guy." ... Stop what you're doing. Put everything down. Shut your mouth and listen. Because if anybody says, "Oh my God, we had a guy." ... And then it just goes. It's so funny.
You're right, man. No, and again, man, it's like cast. When you're in a great cast and stuff like that, it's the stuff that happened off screen. That's all the fun. Those are all the fun stories, and just like the players, it's off the ice, it's off the field. Yeah,
because Battlestar was. I mean, we're making Schindler's List. We're not making Seinfeld, so we needed to find moments of levity to have a bit of a laugh. Yeah. Otherwise you're ready to just shoot yourself in the head. There's one moment. One of my favorite moments. not everybody thinks this is funny, but the 10-year-old boy in me thinks this is the funniest story ever. So we had these. Can I keep talking?
Of course.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
No, this is great, Aaron. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So we had the greatest caterers in the history of film and television caterers on Battlestar Galactica. They had this big, long trailer, and the door opened up, and there was a kitchen in there, and there was these 3 amazing women. And so you walk up, and there's a sandwich board on this side, and it tells you what's going to be. Okay, so there's like steak, and there's chicken, and there's something. And then behind you was a big, long table with salads and all these different things. And at the end of the table was these chafing dishes, like hotel chafing dishes. And in one of the chafing dishes, always, because one of the women was South Asian, an Indian woman, she would make a curry, some kind of beans, some kind of something, and it was the most delicious thing you've ever eaten in your life. So I'm standing in line. They put all the actors to the front because we need to eat, and then we have to go back to hair and makeup to get our everything done. I hate cutting in line, but they tell us to go, so we go. So I'm in line, and I'm third in line, and in front is Donnelly Rhodes, who played Doc Cottle, and then behind him is Mike Hogan. And then there's me, and Tomo's behind me, and then I don't remember who was behind, and then it just went on. So they order their food, and they go down the table for the dishes and stuff, and then Donnelly lifts off this chafing dish. Hogan lifts off this chafing dish, and it's this bean lentil curry thing, and the smell is intoxicating. It's like something out of Disney. You're just like, oh my God, you smell that. Incredible. And so Hogan and Donnelly had been talking to each other in that old man speak that no one understands unless you're 75 plus. Like, oh, so they get up and they lift off this chafing dish. It's like, oh, they're back and forth. I'm looking at Tom going, what the hell are these guys talking about? They're ordering food. The women behind the thing know what the hell they're talking about, but the rest of us just like not a clue. Smokes? You're talking about cigarettes? I don't know. But anyways, so Hogan ladles up a big dish of this stuff onto his plate, turns around to Donnelly and says to him, and this is the only part that I understood, 2 parts. He said, Donnelly, would you like some beans? And Donnelly paused and said, you know, Hogan, I would, but at my age, you just can't trust your farts. And I went, whoa! And then I heard this smack of like flesh on pavement. And I looked back and Tomo had hit the floor and was crying. He was laughing. He was crying. He fell over and hit the ground and was crying. I laughed and laughed. I still laugh. I tell that story at cons and people go, ah. And then there's like always one guy at the back that goes, oh my God, that's the funniest thing ever.
That's awesome. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. So they ladled up some beans and Donnelly couldn't trust his farts. Because
that's awesome.
Anyways.
Yeah, man. No, and by the way, I'm really glad you mentioned Donnelly because another great character actor that I've loved for decades and was so excited when he was cast as Doc Cottle. And it's like, this guy's perfect. Just like George Murdoch, who played the doctor in the Lorne Greene Galactica and was Inspector Scanlon or Lieutenant Scanlon on Barney Miller, and another great character. He plays God in Star Trek V when Shatner says, what does God need with a starship? Yeah. It's George Murdoch under the beard and the wig and stuff like that. So again, what a great mix of veteran actors and newcomers in Galactica. Yeah, honestly, I'm sure a great learning experience for you and also great anecdotes and great stories about these people. So that's terrific.
Yeah, Donnelly was great because he told us stories about because when he first started out, he lived on the Fox lot in LA. Wow. And he was like they signed him to a six picture deal. So he would just be like, whatever down the cast list on this cowboy movie and another cowboy movie and another cowboy movie. And that was his deal. It was just,
wow.
Yeah. So he was like, Liz Taylor is in that house over there and Donnelly's in this house and other people are in these houses, and fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Lovely man. Amazing.
That's amazing. And what an opportunity to hear those kinds of stories. I can only imagine. That's wonderful. Well, Aaron, honestly, man, you've been incredibly generous with your time. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'll remind everybody again, because we went on for a bit, that 10 years for death. Not at all. Oh, God, are you kidding me? Everyone's thrilled, and especially the audio audience that's getting this secondhand. But yeah, 10 Years to Death from Aftershock. Next week, it comes out, and it's a terrific 40 pages that's worth your attention from Cliff Richards and Aaron Douglas. Aaron, thanks again, man. Truly, it's so wonderful. And everybody, thank you for watching. Be well, and we'll see you tomorrow night for, like I said, Kinescope and the discussion about Requiem for a Heavyweight. Stay safe.